If the Dallas Cowboys beat the Broncos this weekend, you should be thinking this is a playoff team. We'll tell you why next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward moment. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And on today's show, we're going to preview the Cowboys-Broncos Week 8 matchup. We'll talk about Sean Payton's offense. We'll give some predictions at the end of the show. But Landon, I want to start with this. If the Cowboys were to win this game, they are 3.5-point road underdogs, according to FanDuel. How should that change our outlook for this team moving forward?
I think it should change it a lot. I mean, not only the record being above 500, which is obviously a good step in the right direction, but you feel like if you win this game against Denver, it lines up pretty good that you could potentially beat Arizona the following week and go into the bye week at 5-3-1, and that's a good place to be kind of as you take the break. And I also think that it's about beating Denver. I mean, Denver is a very good defense. Your offense is going to be challenged in a way that it hasn't been previous to this. You're playing in Denver, which is a very difficult place to play. It's a non-common opponent. So these are all things that traditionally have caused the Cowboys issues. And I think that if you're able to go in there and score against a defense that is number one in plays per drive against them, number one in points per drive against them, has the best 3-and-out percentage in all of football, I feel like you probably feel pretty confident that your offense can do that to anyone, any week. And that gives you the confidence to feel like, man, we make some adjustments on defense and we could really be a contender if we get into the playoffs.
The Cowboys are going to play better teams this year than the Broncos, whether that's, Philadelphia, Detroit, Kansas City. They play the Chargers later in the year. They played Minnesota. But I think if you win this game on the road in Denver, and you pair that with what you did against Green Bay without CeeDee Lamb, without Tyler Booker, without Tyler Guyton, without Cooper Beebe, and I think it kind of shows that you can hang with just about any team in the league, right? There's a good chance Denver's going to win the AFC West and be one of the top seeds. Again, you're going to be playing some good teams, and I think this is a good barometer of what kind of team the Cowboys can be. And we can talk about the future schedule, the Cardinal game, the Raider game. Maybe the end of your schedule doesn't look quite as daunting as it did earlier in the year. But man, you win this game, Landon. I think you're feeling really good about where the Cowboys are at after, what would that be, 8 weeks? It's a big game.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I think you definitely play better teams, but I don't know if your offense is going to face a more difficult challenge than facing Denver in Denver. And again, it being the driving force of your offense, I mean, of your team, I think that if you can overcome what you're going to need to overcome to win this Denver game, you feel pretty good about the strongest component of your team, and I think that gives you the confidence to make the changes you need to fix the other side of your team and make yourself into, a team that's going to be really difficult to beat in the latter half of the season.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys offense, because if they're going to win this game, the offense is going to have a big game. How do they do it against this Denver defense that's loaded with talent and has a really good play caller in Vance Joseph?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Denver attacks Dallas, right? Because Vance Joseph is clearly a guy that traditionally likes to blitz. He's already been blitzing at a very high rate so far this season. I think it's 35.1, which is good for the highest rate in the NFL, or one of the highest rates.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, they've got really great personnel, right? I mean, Patrick Surtain is one of the best defensive players in all of football. And I think that how they are going to play your two big receivers is really going to be kind of an interesting storyline of this whole thing, right? Are they going to try to stick Surtain on either one of these two guys and have him follow them? Is the plan, the classic Belichick where you put your one good corner on the second receiver and then you double team the first best guy? I think that makes some sense simply because you've got CeeDee Lamb operating in the slot a lot more, right?
Well, and we talked about this on the crossover episode. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the plan, but it's a lot harder to double CeeDee Lamb when you can move him all over and play him in the slot. It's not as simple as this guy's going to be lining up as the X and let's have the safety shade over him. It's not that easy.
Well, especially since Ferguson can hurt them, right? Like you've got no Dre Greenlaw in this game because he's suspended, and they have still some good linebackers, but that does weaken that position, and there's a reason they brought in Dre Greenlaw in the first place to that defense, right? So Hufanga is a good safety, but he's more of a box guy, not necessarily a cover guy. So there's going to be some opportunity if they're going to be doubling CD as he's operating inside, for guys like Ferguson to get down the field in the seam. And man, does Dak Prescott love to throw a seam ball. So there are ways that I think this offense that has been very, very good can hurt this Denver defense. It's just going to be about seeing how well the Cowboys are going to be able to keep Dak Prescott upright, because that's really been the problem with this Denver D, is that right now they're averaging I think 13.3% pressure rate, which is absolutely ridiculous. And just to give you an idea of how ridiculous it is, the LA Rams are second in the league. I looked this up with pressure rate at 9.2. And just so you know, the gap.
Where's Dallas at?
Well, I was just going to say the difference between the Broncos and the Rams is like I said, 4.1%. That's also the same difference between the Rams and the Cowboys. Yeah. So that just shows you how much better they are than the second place team. So the Cowboys are somewhere in the 22 area. So
in two ways the Cowboys can beat this Broncos team. Number one, just by watching the tape last week against the Giants, Dak extending plays. Now, Jackson Dart runs a lot more than Dak does, but he did a good job of moving around in the pocket and letting some of these guys get open. I think that's one area where if Dak if the protection holds up, well enough that he can step up and move around, you're going to get guys open. And the other way is to make plays after the catch, make these Broncos defensive backs tackle in space. They had a hard time doing that last week against Wan'Dale Robinson and Cam Scatterbo and Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson. So if you can get your receivers with the ball in their hands on the move, I do think you can create big plays. And you also have to be aggressive. Like, I know Patrick Surtain's a really good corner. That doesn't mean that you can't target him. Go back last year and watch George Pickens play against Patrick Surtain. He had two catches for 29 yards. If you look at the stat sheet, but he also had a long touchdown that was taken off the board because of an illegal formation. He had another long 38-yard catch taken off the board because of a holding. This is not a matchup where you have to completely ignore Pickens just because Patrick Surtain's out there.
Yeah, and I think the other name to remember here is obviously the guys that are key guys that we're going to see, but one name that we shouldn't forget is Turpin, because I think Turpin can be a real weapon against this defense. You can get him on the jet sweep stuff you do, but like Marcus just said, get the ball in his hands quickly on the perimeter and see if these guys can tackle Turpin. And if they can, he can run through the defense and get you some quick points. So I think it's just, Turpin is going to help in the misdirection. And this is a team that is a big, strong team. They're solid inside. So maybe you get them with speed on the perimeter a little bit. Turpin can really help you here.
All right, let's talk about stopping Sean Payton and Bo Nix here in Week 8. What's the best strategy for slowing down this offense? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets. that you can use across the app. I love FanDuel because it gives you so many different ways to play. Like, I love creating money line parlays. Pick a couple teams you think are going to win on a Sunday morning, and then boom, you're off. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. And whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience that much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. This episode is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad. Software as a disservice. And that's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. And by uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, the busy works, and the silos that your software has created. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill in the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That is rippling.com for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Landon, how did the Cowboys stop a Sean Payton offense, which always has a lot of tricks and gimmicks and things that get you going one direction and a lot of misdirection? How do you slow down this offense?
Yeah, I mean, you watch these guys and they look like an offense trying to throw the kitchen sink at you constantly, right? And it's a weird collection of players a little bit too, right? You look at, you obviously have a clear, number one receiver. You have a running back who's come back that is now, having another resurgence in his career, right? And J.K. Dobbins, and then you add in the quarterback who is, listen, a lot of you know that I'm an Auburn Tiger. I have a very weird relationship with this quarterback, and watching, his progression away from Auburn in Oregon and then in the NFL has been very weird. But at the end of the day, he kind of is operating as a average NFL passer, I think is probably a kind way to say it. And if you look at him on an EPA per dropback level, he's, below average, I would say, but he has that kind of Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields dual threat aspect to his game, which can really kind of buoy the offense a little bit and make them more efficient, even if he as a quarterback isn't incredibly efficient. So I think the key is going to be, as it is with a lot of Sean Payton offenses, is kind of stopping the run, because Sean Payton is so good at marrying the run game with the play action. And they're not a very vertical passing team. In fact, I think, Bo Nix is 29th in yards per attempt. And it shows. It's like they throw a lot of screens, right? They throw it to the outside.
They will throw like one or two bombs down the sideline every game. Now, that's where Bo Nix has been wildly inaccurate this season, but they will do it.
Yeah, they certainly will attempt it, right? But on the whole, like, where they're being effective is using the run game and then play action pass, and then Peyton's always been really good at designing screens and getting kind of weird, short passes out to the playmakers, and then get them trying to get yards up to the catch. So it's just going to be a real kitchen sink game. And with the Cowboys defense that struggled to kind of do very simple things, you do worry about, all the trickery and stuff that kind of gets thrown in there, and how the Cowboys defense is going to react to that.
Yeah, and if you watch the Giants game last week, this offense for 3 quarters
did nothing.
And a big reason why I was getting frustrated watching this is they don't have a go-to number one option. Their best receiver is Courtland Sutton.
Yeah.
And I like Sutton, but he's not CeeDee Lamb. I don't even know if he's George Pickens. I do think he can make some big plays like on back shoulder fades and on fade balls, but he's not somebody that you can run a simple dig route or slant route and feel good about him getting open. So what Sean Payton has to do is kind of scheme everything up, right? And the problem with that is your offense just doesn't have a lot of flow. And it's pretty easy to defend if you can rally and tackle. And that's what makes me nervous in this game is you need to have guys on the field that trust their eyes, trust their keys, fly to the football and make tackles. And I don't know how many guys I feel great about that right now, especially if, well, I don't know if this helps or hurts, but with Donovan Wilson and Trayvon Diggs, both very questionable for this week.
Well, honestly, I think in that specific area that might help, right? Because those guys really.
I will say Diggs has had a couple plays this year, including the Packers, where he could read things and fly to the football. But on the whole, he's not your most reliable tackler.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is going to be a challenge for this defense. There's no doubt. Like, I mean, I think everything is a challenge for this defense right now, unfortunately. But I do think that there is. You're not wrong in the sense that you look at the talent that's assembled on this offense, and you're like, it's just there's not anyone that's really captivating your attention tournaments. Courtland Sutton is a functional X receiver on a starting functional NFL receiver, like good, better than average probably, but not certainly someone that like you're game planning a ton around. And I'm going to say that, and he's going to have 175 yards receiving this
probably.
game. So
but they also that's the other thing is Denver will throw the ball a lot. Like Sean Payton has no problem throwing the ball 45 times in this game, even if they're running the ball well.
And even if they're throwing the ball terribly, he'll continue to throw the ball. And that's the other thing is, like you said, the inconsistency. Like the one thing that you see consistently with this offense is that they're consistently inconsistent, right? Like they go very long stretches in almost every single game without doing anything, right? Without scoring points. I mean, honestly, the Giants game, it was almost 3.5 quarters, right? Like, they did the same thing against the Eagles, right? And so I just think that there's going to be there's a very high likelihood that you're going to get to a situation where you're in a game and maybe you're ahead by multiple touchdowns, right? And you're feeling good about this team. You can't let off the gas, right? I think this team has shown that they can come back and suddenly get hot and score 21 points in a quarter and be right back in this game.
Well, and we should mention, I think a lot of that, they've done that a couple times this year. And I do wonder if the altitude plays a difference. Like they can, even if they're not having a ton of success on offense, they can wear down your defensive line and your defensive backs. And all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, when they start playing hurry up, that's when these guys can get gassed and they'll rotate guys in. They'll be fresh. This is one of the benefits of not having an offense where you rely on one or two targets. They're going to use a bunch of different guys, whether it's Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin or Evan Ingram or J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. Like they're going to have a heavy rotation to keep these guys fresh. But again, you've got to be able to rally to the football. You've got to make tackles because if my fear as a Cowboy fan is that Sean Payton's going to have a lot of these like 11, 12, 13 play drives that take up 7 or 8 minutes and your defense is huffing and puffing. And now you keep your offense off the field. And that's how the Cowboys ultimately lose this one.
Yeah, and you named it too. Like this team doesn't, what they lack in top end talent, they have in nice solid depth, right? 2 or 3 deep at wide receiver, maybe 4, 2 and 3 deep at running back. Like they have a couple of different guys who maybe they're not necessarily huge playmakers, but they'll get the job done in a Sean Payton schemed offense.
Let's make some predictions for Week 8, Dallas, Denver. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving forward. And this week's moment to move the game forward is DaRon Bland's pick 6 against Marcus Mariota. It's been a rough couple of years for Bland, who's been dealing with some injuries. He had a lower body injury. Now he's got a shoulder injury. He had an ankle injury early in this year. He got a big contract, but hadn't quite performed. up to his 2023 level. But then he got the pick 6 in the Washington game to seal the win for the Cowboys to improve to 3-1 on the year. That was the play that got the Cowboy fans excited. It just improved the overall outlook for the Cowboys moving the game, for the Cowboys moving forward, and it keeps the fans moving forward into the season. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 shows every single day. One in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Landon, week 8, Cowboys, Broncos, who wins?
I kind of think I'm picking the Broncos this week, honestly. It's a tough game. Like, I honestly think it's a coin flip, and even Vegas seems to think that they're only giving the Broncos 5 points at home, basically, or 0.5, half a point at home, right?
Point, yeah.
Yeah. I just think this is a very difficult situation for a team that is offensive driven, that lives and dies by their offense. They're going to, I always look at it like, can our offense be more effective against than their offense can be against our defense? And this is definitely one of those weeks where I don't know, because first of all, you just don't know what you're going to get from the Broncos offense. And second of all, like, I think this is a really difficult matchup for the Cowboys, because this is a very good defense. Not anything more than that, but I think it is something that we're going to see exactly how good this offense is, right? If they win this game, I will feel really, really solid about where this team can go if they make some adjustments on defense. And if they lose, I don't know that it changes too much, other than the fact that there's, the schedule, I mean, their record and having to kind of overcome that a little bit more. But as far as like moral losses, it's a tough game. It's a tough, I don't necessarily expect them to be able to do this with a kind of floundering defense.
I don't think you would feel like the way we came out of the Carolina game or the Chicago game, where it's like, okay, the season's over, this is a bad team, or anything like that. I think it would be disappointing. There's no doubt. But this is a much better team than Chicago or Carolina. I think for me, it's like, I'm picking the Broncos, by the way, too. It's just that at some point, Dak Prescott's not going to have 130 passer rating every single week. In his last 4 games, he's got 13 passing touchdowns and no interceptions. He's completing like 74% of his passes. I think there's a chance that Dak has a game of, like, I don't know, 100 passer rating. And the Cowboys, it's just not good enough, right? Like,
it's just not enough. Yeah.
Dak has to play at such an elite level against these really good teams. And if there's, a slip up at all, or a ball bounces off a receiver's hands, or you get some penalties, you get behind the chains, or the offensive line doesn't hold up, like, I think there's a chance the Cowboys could score 24 points. And for most teams, scoring 24 points in Denver against the Broncos would be great. That would be enough to win the game. Probably not right now with the state of the Cowboys defense. Now you're hoping that Dallas's defense can eventually get there, but I just think you're just asking so much of Dak, and you're putting so much pressure on him that we should expect a less than superhuman performance at some point this year.
Well, I mean, the other thing he's not doing is he's not getting sacked, right?
No.
And this is going to be the ultimate test of that, right? Like, I think I quoted the numbers earlier. I think the Denver Broncos are sacking at an insane high rate this year. So if Dak is able to get out of this game, lightly sacked as he has, throughout the season, then I think you've got something clearly that's going positive for your offense. And I think, another way that this game could play out is, the Cowboys could, get an advantage in the run game and find a way to just grind this defense down a little bit more. The Denver Broncos have been very good against the run so far this year, but they certainly are a little bit lighter on the edge once you're able to get out past those 3 interior guys, and even the 3 interior guys, like, they're strong and they're stout, but they're not like 300 pounders. They're like 280 pound guys. So, and you've got really strong interior guys that can help move those guys. So I do think that there's a game script in this where the Cowboys are able to just have a very efficient run game. Maybe it really is a Javonte Williams revenge game, which is, a kind of underreported part of this because Javonte is just sort of a nice guy who doesn't really want to, make ruffle feathers. But maybe there is a way where the Cowboys, run the ball a little bit more, have a more efficient passing game as opposed to like we said, 4 touchdown, 130 passing yard game, and they still win. But I just think that you're putting so much on your offense in these games to outpace the bad play of your defense. And with Sean Payton being such a good play designer, it almost doesn't matter that they don't have like elite weapons out there. Bo Nix is still consistently throwing the ball to wide open targets, it feels like.
Having said that, they scored 20 points against the Chargers. They scored 28 against the Broncos, and I believe 7 of those were on defense. They scored 21 against Philadelphia, including 0 in the first half. They scored 13 against the Jets in a game they got 9 sacks, and they scored 0 in the first 3 quarters against the Giants. So, this is an offense that's still very much a work in progress, and if you ask Bronco fans, they're incredibly disappointed. This should be a game the Cowboys are able to get a couple stops, right? That's the thing. Like we saw, like Washington last week, I think they got 3 stops in a row. And at that point, the game was over. If the Cowboys can, get multiple stops in a row, create a turnover, get good field position, maybe you can get to a point where you're controlling the pace of the game and Denver's having to abandon the run. I just hope the Cowboys, and I'm sure they're not. Don't be afraid of Denver. This is a good team.
No,
this is a team you can beat.
Absolutely. Like, let me be clear. We're both picking the Broncos, but this is truly a coin flip game. There's just a lot of things going on either side, right? That are kind of just hard to predict. But I certainly don't feel like the Cowboys have no chance in this game. The Cowboys have plenty of chance to go in there and, play the kind of game we just described and winning in Denver. It's just as difficult an ask as you're going to have for your offense this year. And so if they don't accomplish it, I just won't be shocked. But yeah, like giving 0.5 points, it's Vegas is like giving us a coin flip chance as well.
All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Check out the show on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. He is Landon McCool. Follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy the game, and we'll see you right back here on Sunday night.